China denies supplying lethal weapons to aid Russia's war in Ukraine as President Volodymyr Zelenskyy doubles down on accusations against Beijing. Mr. Zelenskyy says he has information that China was supplying arms to Russia, saying there's intelligence Beijing is supplying artillery and gunpowder to Moscow. China says the allegations are groundless, insisting on its neutral stance in the three-year war. It had previously criticized as manipulation and hype Ukraine's capture of at least 2 Chinese fighters in Donetsk.
中方从未向冲突任何一方提供致命性武器，严格管控军民两用物项。乌方对此是十分清楚的，也公开表示，俄方进口武器的零部件多数来自美国等西方国家。 中方坚决反对无端指责和政治操弄。
Ukraine has also imposed sanctions on 3 Chinese entities, according to a presidential decree. The sanctions list named the companies as all registered in China, although it also included some Russian firms. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meanwhile, says Washington will stop trying to broker a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine unless there are clear indications a deal can be done. Mr. Rubio has just met with European and Ukrainian leaders in Paris, where he said Germany, France and the UK can help move the ball on a truce. Now, for more, Nina Maria Potts joins us live from Washington, D.C. Nina, what key factors can we take from Mr. Rubio's comments about whether a Ukraine truce is doable?
Well, on the surface, it's the clearest signal yet that the U.S. does not feel enough progress is being made in peace talks. And that could mean any number of scenarios that the U.S. is preparing to abandon Ukraine. The Trump administration has been moving in that direction for some time. Even from President Trump's campaign trail ahead of the election, he had begun to call the conflict Biden's war. But he also promised on the campaign trail that he would end the war as soon as possible. And if he can't end the war, then he's clearly cutting his losses. Marco Rubio's comments giving a timeline as a matter of days to decide whether a peace deal is even possible. That reflects the mounting frustration within the White House at the lack of progress. We saw that frustration spill over at February's meeting with Zelenskyy at the White House, which broke all the norms of diplomacy. For President Trump, there's clearly a limited window before the mess in Ukraine becomes his problem and not a legacy of Biden's. So tactically, he would want to wash his hands of it as quickly as possible. Most of the criticism has been leveled against Moscow for stalling on negotiations. President Trump saying recently that Russia has got to get moving. The Paris talks have been talked up as an excellent exchange, but in reality, there are profound differences between the Europeans and the US over Ukraine. And the aim of the talks was to look at the detail of a peace plan. Marco Rubio also talking to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to convey the same outline. But again, if no progress is possible, the US is walking away. Here's what Marco Rubio had to say.
We're not going to continue with this endeavor for weeks and months on end. So we need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about in a matter of days, whether or not this is doable over the next few weeks. If it is, we're in. If it's not, then we have other priorities to focus on as well.
Well, there it is, an ultimatum: either make some progress or the US will disengage.
Nina, Ukraine has also said that it hopes to complete talks on a minerals deal with Washington by the end of next week. Talk us through the progress that's been made on this.
Well, it moves the US and Ukraine a step closer to this minerals deal. Kiev saying that it's ready to sign that deal as soon as now. It hasn't come without issues, though. There was an earlier version that was left unsigned after that argument back in February when President Trump accused Zelenskyy of disrespecting the US. The minerals deal is short on detail, and the White House hasn't really commented in detail either on it yet, except to say that it will be ready to sign. it'll be ready to be signed soon. It involves the creation of a fund that would invest in the reconstruction of Ukraine, which is, of course, badly needed, but the source of revenue for that fund is very unclear. I think it's worth just saying that there's a growing chorus of criticism, certainly here in Washington, over Ukraine's leadership. Critics who say that Zelenskyy has monopolized decision-making in Ukraine and that there's no room for dissent. There's a sense that European leaders have idolized him, but that, within Ukraine, there's perhaps a political fragility which isn't being publicly acknowledged. So yes, this is a step forward on the minerals deal, but a growing disenchantment here in Washington.
All right, thanks very much, Nina. Nina Maria Potts there reporting live from Washington, D.C.